afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Steel Mint webinars. And thank you for being a part of this event. The focus of our discussion today is our neighboring country, Nepal. The topic is Nepal steel industry, present scenario, and the way forward. I'm Madhumita Mukherjee, editor, Steel Mint, your host for the afternoon. Nepal, the kingdom of the Himalayas. We're all aware this beautiful country with a vast heritage and nestled amongst the world's tallest mountains experienced a severe earthquake in the year 2015. Post this, Nepal got into reconstruction mode, which has led to an enormous requirement of steel. Nepal, being a landlocked country, is largely dependent on imported steel. The total demand for steel has gradually increased over the years and at present stands at around 2.5 million tons per annum. As already mentioned, Nepal's focus is reconstruction, and the construction industry is currently contributing around 10% to the country's GDP. Several infrastructure and power transmission and distribution projects are coming up big time, whipping up steel demand. Nepal is importing 1 to 1.5 million tons of semi-finished steel and about 1 million tons of finished steel per annum. India is incidentally Nepal's largest supplier of steel with a share of almost 95% in the total steel imports kitty. I welcome our esteemed panel of speakers, Mr. Pradeep Kumar Shrestha, Managing Director of the Panchkanya Group of Nepal, Mr. Anurak Sharma, Director and Business Head at Jagdamba Steels, Nepal, and Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, Joint Managing Director, Shyam Metallics and Energy Limited, India. Welcome, sirs, once again to this Steel Mint webinar. We are truly honored to have you as a speaker this afternoon. But before I go over to the panel discussion, let me introduce Ms. Nishtha Mukherjee, my colleague and co-host of this webinar. Ms. Mukherjee is General Manager, Iron Ore and Scrap at Steel Mint. She has 8 years of experience in the iron and steel industry. She holds an MBA degree in Finance and Marketing and Bachelor of Engineering Electronics. Ms. Mukherjee will make a presentation on Nepal's steel industry now. Over to you, Nishtha.
Thank you, ma'am, for the kind introduction. Please allow me to share my screen.
Yeah.
I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah.
All right. So talking about the Nepal steel industry. So Nepal steel industry has shown a significant recovery in terms of increased crude steel output from existing players as well as from the new entrants in the recent years. After the 2015 earthquake, Nepal steel mills have been focusing more on the steel quality for reconstruction purposes, which assures safety of these structures. As ma'am already shared that Nepal's construction sector accounts for roughly 10 to 11% of the country's GDP. So yeah, country's steel demand has also seen an increase from roughly around 1.4 million tons in CY19 to around 2.5 million tons currently. Talking about the steel imports and steel industry in Nepal, so we can see that annually, roughly around the billet imports stand around 1 to 1.5 million tons, with entire volumes largely coming in from India. Around 0.5 to 0.6 million tons of flat steel imports, roughly around 0.3 million tons of long steel imports as well, out of which nearly 70% share is that of wire rods. Apart from that, Nepal also imports roughly around 0.5 million tons sponge iron annually. Talking about flat steel imports in Nepal, since India contributes over 95% share in Nepal's imports, other sources include China, Japan, etc. Share of HRC is around 75%, followed by that of CRC, which is around 15%, and remaining share goes to the electrical steel and galvanized steel. So this is a breakup of semi-finished, finished flats, and finished long imports over the past few months that we have been witnessing. Interestingly, Nepal's sponge iron imports has grown from roughly around 140,000 tons in CY19 to over 160,000 tons in CY20, with largely entire share coming in from India. With recently 2 plants in Nepal starting the trial production of billets in their furnaces, production capacity of roughly around 400 to 500 tons per day, we expect that sponge iron imports to Nepal will remain supported in the near term. A quick law on the price trends. So recently, the rebar prices in Nepal have seen a slight correction because of the decline in raw material, that is the imported billet prices from India. Also, a slight increase in the rebar stocks with the mills, and yes, a bit of subdued demand. So the offers were assessed roughly around 80,000 Nepali rupee to around 82,000 Nepali rupee, depending on the major mills and the smaller mills. So that was a quick look on the price trends. Before I end the presentation, some concerns that I think Nepal industry would have been facing I would like to highlight is that, though quality concerns, electricity issues, logistical bottlenecks, and availability of skilled manpower has remained concerns so far. But yes, the country is surely onto the path of better opportunities with number of increasing projects coming in and the steel capacity ramp-ups that are taking place. So that was all that I had to present. Thank you so much. Over to you, Madhumita ma'am.
Thank you, Nishta. That was a very informative presentation giving an overview of Nepal's steel industry performance in terms of demand, prices, imports, and the way forward. Billets understandably form the bulk of imports. Logistics issues, electricity issues are a bother at present. But to take the webinar forward, I will now ask my honored guests to join the panel discussion. We would request each speaker to complete their speech in around 7 minutes. And we would be asking them questions. And we will throw the floor open, after all the three speakers have made their speeches. We'll throw the floor open for Q&As from our esteemed audience. I will now cross over the cyber borders into Nepal and begin with Mr. Pradeep Kumar Shrestha, Managing Director of the Panchkanya Group of Nepal. Mr. Shrestha brings to the table more than 17 years of experience in hydropower, along with a rich 35 years of experience in business operations. He is the Honorary Consul of the Republic of South Africa, Vice President of the Confederation of the Asia Pacific Chamber of Commerce and Industries, and the past President of the Federation of Nepalese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Panchkanya is one of the leading corporate houses in Nepal with a presence across steel products like rebar, wire rods, and nails, as well as structural steel, amongst others. Over to you, Mr. Shrestha.
Thank you, Madhumita, for introducing me.
Well,
first of all, let me congratulate Steel Mint for taking this initiative of getting all of us, not very physically, but of course, to the new technology. I think that is very nice of you. I recall when Steel Mint organized a conference, Steel Mint conference in Nepal. I think it was a great success. And we recall those very memorable time where we had a lot of participants from India and other countries also. So that was a very historical event, and I was a part of that. And I think I added a little bit of fragments to the flower at that event. Coming back to the point, well, Panchkanya Group is an industrial house, and we have a number of industries. We have about 10, 12 industries, but steel is one of our flagship company of the this group. And we have started this industry nearly 35 years back. So we have a long history in this industry. But of course, steel is one product which determines the growth and the development of the country. Per capita consumption of the steel determines the development structure and development pace of the country. In a way, of course, Nepal's growth rate at least 10 to 12% minimum per year is there in an average every year. But just when Nista presented, I think it was a very informative presentation you made in a very short span of time. I think you can recall after the earthquake, the demand of steel surged up so high, we were compelled to import the finished good from India. The reason behind was most of the mills were affected. The import was a problem from the raw material import, and the factory operation was also a problem. And there are a lot of, the damages, the bridges, the buildings were damaged. So the demand surged up so fast. And the price of the steel bars went so high, and those who are not in the steel industry also felt that is the best time to hop into this business. Those industries who are already in this industry, in this sector, went for a massive expansion. And those who were not in this business felt that there was a good money. So everybody started thinking of coming into this industry. Sorry, I can't talk. I have a very bad cough, So at this juncture, a lot of industries started going for expansion. So as Panchakanya also did. So we doubled our capacity, and some of the new entrants who came up with something very massive, we had even never thought of that size. Today, the production capacity could be around 5 million tons, and of course, demand is hovering around 1.3 to 1.5 million tons for the steel bars. Of course, the demand for overall steel product would be around 2.5 million. And now a lot of these industries are going for backward integration, and the integration because is to reduce the cost of production, because I think 7 mills are already going for the sponge iron route also, backward integration. And I believe there are few more coming up in addition to what we have today. So this has become a need or a compulsion that I still, I'm in a dilemma. On the quality aspect, some of the industries who are importing prime quality billets, I have not gone into that. For my industries, we are still importing 80-90% of our product from Steel Authority of India. And we are only importing some controlled chemistry product, and of course we command a premium for our product in Nepal. So our price difference to the other industries is at least 4 to 5 rupees or 4 to 5,000 rupees per ton in Nepal. And we are okay, and we have not been trying to go too fast. And today, of course, there are a lot of problems are there. Demands are the way demands are compared to the demand, the production capacity is very high. So there's going to be a very cutthroat competition, and it's not only going to be a survival of the fittest, but it could be the survival of the fattest also. So how much you can sell. So this is a big challenge for many of the industries today. So tomorrow, how we go forward is another big challenges. Of course, big hydropower projects are coming. The demands of the steel bars is certainly going to go up, but we have to be competitive. And of course, the quality aspect has to be really given a deeper thought. After the earthquake, the general customers feel that they should get a best of the best product when they have to invest for their lifetime investment in their home, house. So this is one, of course, mindset that has come into it, and that is one I think we industrialists has to give up the deeper thought. Other than that, of course, labor availability is a problem, of course, but due to this COVID, in the last 2 years, many of the industries could not operate the way like it's not only Nepal, but it's in every part of the world. And we had to operate our industries, confining all the laborers within the compound. Of course, complying with the COVID protective discipline, so we had to work on that, and we worked 20-30% capacity and work. And today, if you see the percentage wise, maybe 40 to 40% of the capacity is only utilized by most of the mills. So, and we have a problem with the electricity. Of course, the demand of electricity can go up with the increase of new mills coming up, and of course the backward integrated mills also with the sponge iron that may create the demand for the electricity. But we have a problem with the Nepal Electricity Authority today because they are talking about this dedicated line issues, which was a dead issue. Now it's again coming up, and I think most of these steel industries who are the biggest consumer of this electricity have been now asked to pay the electricity bill, which is not justifiable, not appreciable, and not, it's going to be a big issue for this lot of these our industries, because what they have claimed is not acceptable to many of us, and that is not true. In the context of the other infrastructures here, the government has put a lot of thrust in the development. The budget is well allocated, and now the government also, it's not like what we had 4 years back. It's all provincial government, so they have independently work on to their demand. And I'm sure in the coming days, the demands are certainly going to go up. But with the numbers of mills that has been already set up and going for further expansion, and today I think there are nearly 28 factories. Out of these, 2 or 3 factories were closed, and I also understand that there are another 2 factories still coming up. So I'm wondering how we are going to share the size of the cake that has not really gone up, because the demand for the steel for last I would say 4 to 5 years is has not gone more than 1.5 million tons, and the capacity is more than 5 million tons. So you can imagine what could be the future, and it's a demand and supply. Economics has to work, but in the context of steel, because it's a very high power consuming, high interest bearing, capital intensive project. So if one cannot manage well, it's going to hit everybody. So this is a great challenge for all of us, and I'm sure Anurag, he's a technical guy. He's been in this business for more than for decades. So he knows the intricacy of Nepal, and he has also felt the nerves of India. So I think he'll be the best man to answer many of the questions that I will like to leave it to him. I think I spent exactly 7-8 minutes, so I will stop this here now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shrestha. That was a very interesting take on the Nepal scenario. Demand for steel surged after the quake. Most mills were affected, and imports were the only option. Mills, you said, are presently going for backward integration to reduce costs. Now, after emerging from the earthquake, now Nepal, like many other countries, is battling the pandemic. So how has the recovery been in Nepal's steel industry from the COVID standpoint?
See, this pandemic has affected the world, and nobody can live in isolation. So I think we managed, because the demand for the steel product was there, but the production was a problem because we had to abide by the government, this protocol, safety protocols had to be followed. So many of the mills were shut down, but some of the mills, who could manage, had to make their own arrangement to have their laborers within their own complex in the compound, where all the facilities were given, eating and living there. So they were confined in the one unit for maybe 2-3 weeks per month. Even for a month, we had to hold our. So we paid a little bit extra for this. We spent a little bit extra for having them within the factory complex. That's how it was done. And of course, the problem is that the lockdowns are there, in some cities, and some are open. Ultimately, if the whole country is not open, it's not going to be there. And another biggest difficulty was in the construction site area. The laborers were not available. So the sales were, came down drastically, So we were holding the inventory, and of course, the interest we had to serve to, the bank. But interestingly, what happened was the demand for this finance, for funding, the banks were flooded with liquidity. They had a lot of cash, So the interest came down. Luckily, from 12%, it came down to 7-8%, So that also gave us a little bit of relief otherwise. Otherwise, it would have been a very, very difficult time to service the interest to the bank. And of course, we were, actually, it was more to survive, than to progress, So it was a survival issue. So that was on the COVID case, I think that is not only with Nepal, but with every country.
Right.
So,
to what extent has demand taken a hit because of COVID? If you could quantify?
Yeah, last 1.5 years, the demand was, of course, because of COVID, you could not. Now it's really improving, and people feel that there is no way out. We have to work and we have to earn our bread. So the labor's availability is also now come up. And actually, another aspect is one of these foreign workers, who were left the country and gone back. So they when they return back, so they had no job, even they could not return back. Some could be absorbed, and of course there was a labor crisis there. I mean, the shortage of labor was there, but the capacity of the operation that made us balance that. Of course, the effect was certainly there because we could not manufacture the way we wanted, and so we had to lobby to the government and ask for certain concession to increase our, the repayment schedule to the banks, So all these, our associations like the Federation, the Confederation associations had to go to the concerned ministries and government, like the central bank, the other commercial banks, and ask if we could survive. And that was
right. What are the recent steel projects lined up that will boost Nepal's steel consumption demand?
So of course, as I said, a lot of the hydropower projects are under consideration. Should those projects go into the construction phase, the demand for the steel and the cement or the construction material would certainly go up.
Right.
And this, in the context of Nepal, our infrastructure is not good, So, I mean, and when you're talking about the hydropower, we were talking about small hydropower project in the past, and now number of good hydropower projects are trying to, go for, construction of this project so that they can export the electricity to India also. So that is one of the target, and India, Bangladesh is one of the two targets country.
Okay.
And should that be okay? Of course, we do have a political issues, because our government is changing so fast. One cannot keep a track of that, and the effect is it's always going to hit the business community or the economic of the country. So on that context, I would say that there are projects, there are number of like for this roads and bridges are there. So they have now Nepal is also going for tunnel roads and all. In the last budget announced a number of tunnel roads, and should that go, of course the consumption of the steel in those areas will also add. So this is how I think the government has planned for the coming years. The last budget was quite encouraging for the construction sectors.
Can you name some of the hydropower projects?
There are specifically if I name, I think there are a lot of Chinese related Chinese projects are there, and well, I cannot mention immediately that, but there are quite a good numbers of hydropower projects. That much I can tell you.
You did mention that Nepal is facing electricity challenges. Now, how is that impacting steel production, profitability of the mills?
No, electricity problem has always been there, but lately happening is because of this number of hydropower projects coming into generation, the supply situation has improved drastically. But now with this number of new expansions of steel industries and going backward integration, of course, the demand should go up further. Another biggest issue, as I told you, I touched in my initial when I was talking on that phase, that the dedicated line issue, I mean, those who have not used the dedicated line also are now, our Nepal Electricity Authority is demanding the highest charge, and should that be, cost or the charges to be paid, then most of the industries will have to revolt, or, will have to, get together and challenge the government, and this is very, very unacceptable to all of us, no matter whether it's 1 rupees or 1 million rupees, it doesn't, but in principle, in the policy matter, I think we have a difference to that. So this has become a hot issue in Nepal now.
Okay.
And the government needs to address it very, very sincerely.
Right. Any other macroeconomic factor that you would like to highlight in perspective to the steel industry? You said that interest rates have come down. So do you think that would, boost steel projects going forward? Steel infrastructure?
Actually, yeah. Actually, other than like we are talking about backward integration, now Nepal is, we are having one Dhaubadi steel, mines. So government has called a tender where we can I think mine the iron ores from that Dhaubadi steel. So this is already under consideration very seriously, and Nepal is looking forward to having their own iron ore plant here in Nepal. So some of these companies, private and it's a joint venture with the government, of course, with the foreign company also. I think there are a few leaders from some China, India, ideally some South Africa and Denmark. 4 or 5 companies, international companies, have shown interest in exploring this Dhaubadi steel. So should that come into operation, of course, some of the demand of the steel will be made within the country. And that is going to be one of the biggest, I think, focus of the government, because we a lot of money in us in the import of billets or raw material from for our mills here in Nepal. So that is one area where I think, and of course, as I said, that every provincial government has their own plans for expansion. So all these infrastructural projects are there. So and government has, in the last budget also, they have indicated a number of projects, be it smaller, like schools, hospitals, all these factors are there. So, and because of this COVID now, the biggest, I think, money allocated is for the health sector also. So a lot of hospitals will be constructed. And that I'm sure would also add some extra demand.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Shrestha. We'll come back to you again, of course.
Sure.
Our second guest speaker is Mr. Anurak Sharma, Director and Business Head of Jagdamba Steels, Nepal. Mr. Sharma has a rich experience of around 8 years in the steel industry. Interestingly, he started his career in 1993 as a management trainee in administration at the Steel Authority of India Limited. He worked in several capacities in sales, central marketing organization in India and overseas, completing 23 years of its SAIL. In 2016, he left SAIL to move to Nepal as Director Jagdamba Steels, which is Nepal's largest steel company. During these last 5 years, Jagdamba has shown remarkable growth and has successfully transformed from being a long products player to a one-stop shop for all steel requirements in Nepal, with the addition of production facilities for cold rolling, galvanized iron, PPGI, and pipes. Over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Very good morning, rather good afternoon. Thank you so much, Madhumati for this wonderful introduction for me.
Welcome.
Nisha ji gave a wonderful presentation on Nepal. In Nepal, actually, we don't follow this normal calendar. So we work with July to July calendar. So we have this year 75-76, which is 18-19 in Nepal, 2018 July to 2019 July. So that was the year without COVID having any sort of a say. In 1920, we were hit with COVID. So just to put those figures in perspective, I'll discuss with respect to Nepal data. Nepal imports in 75-76, next year's war. We had imports of 2.35 million tons in 74-75, which is 2018-19. When I say 18-19, I mean July 18 to July 19. 1890 pre-COVID, we did 2.35 million tons. Next year, we were hit with COVID. The productive months got affected because of COVID. And the imports also fell substantially. From 2.35, we came down to 1.9 million tons of imports. Next year, which is the year gone by, July 2021, we have again sort of scaled up and reached to those pre-COVID levels. We are back to 2.35 million tons now. So in this period of COVID, when production capacities were held up, we were all facing lockdown situations, sales, everything got affected. So turnover of most of the companies have gone down, sales were not there. But this year, when I say 2021, it has been substantially better than what we did in 1920. The major issue which is being faced by steel industry in Nepal is clearly of overcapacity. Of course, Pradeep Shresh sir has given a wonderful outline of how steel industry is in Nepal today. So the main challenge today is of overcapacities. Post-earthquake, there was tremendous demand, imports from all of the places wherever you can get finished products, it was coming into Nepal. During that period, most of the players in cement thought it's a wonderful opportunity to get into steel. Steel players thought cement also is doing extremely well, so let me put up cement plants. So a lot of new players entered both into steel and cement. So both steel and cement are basic ingredients for infrastructure development in any country. But when you follow a herd mentality without throwing weights to the caution, not looking at the market size, how things will operate, so you face a situation where you set up huge capacities in your country. So today, TMT bars alone, we are looking at a capacity of 30 to 35 lakh tons. With a couple of mills getting added, we are looking at 35 lakh tons of TMT steel, TMT bars alone. And today, if I say the year gone by, which is July 20 to 2021, we probably have sold around 13.5 lakh tons of TMT bars in the country. So we are facing a situation where too much demand, too much supply chasing too little demand in the market. So it has clearly put a lot of stress on the industry. Of course, we had a swing of 1 or 2 months where we had inventory, prices went up, we could also get some higher prices. But now looking at the current scenario, we find all those talk of making some money has gone with the wind. This tremendous stress in the industry today. The price points are not what we thought we should be getting. There are industries which are only just because they have set up industries and with the kind of investment they have made, the loan exposures they've got, they have to sell materials, show their turnovers and somehow try and survive in the market. So when we look at our costs of production, raw material, my cost of production and the selling price, I don't think many of us is making profits today in the market. Pradeep Shresh's company, Panchkanya, as he said, gets a premium of 4 rupees. Of course, we also maintain very high standards of quality. We do our own billet production as well as we are the largest buyer from Steel Authority of India Limited in Nepal. So we also get a premium of 1.5 to 2 rupees on our products. But then with so much material coming in, after all, all said and done, steel still remains a commodity, and it's a very price-sensitive market. So there's tremendous pressure in the market. New players coming in, not calculating how the price needs to be calculated, not looking at various costs or ignoring them simply to garner market share. So it's become a fiercely competitive market these days and putting tremendous pressure on prices. So this is what I wanted to say about the TMT bars market. Apart from its TMT bars is okay. Even in long products, even in flat products, it's a market of 5.5, 5.6 million tons, 5.6 lakh tons. This market also took a dip in COVID times. It went from 5.6 to it went up to 4.2 lakh tons, and again it has retraced its pre-COVID days with the imports of something like 5.5 lakh tons. Here also there's a change in the market scenario because international market is getting extremely buoyant. Most of the countries in India took to exports in a big way. Of course, not that they were not exporting earlier, with huge export orders coming in and China gobbling up everything that the world could give, the prices increased substantially. So the billet prices went up, HR coil, CR coil, all prices have gone up. And when the prices went up like this, HR coil as a raw material for pipes, because pipes in Nepal is a big market. If HR coil import is around out of 5.5 lakh tons, HR coil import is around 4.3 lakh tons today. So out of this 4.3 lakh tons, the scenario has changed now. HR coil imports from 4.3 lakh tons to 4.2 lakh tons in 1920. In 2021, it has come back to 4.72. But pipes, we see a drastic change in how you produce pipes. Patra market has been created, and pipe being a commodity, people simply want the cheapest material. So the markets in pipe has clearly shifted towards Patra. In the last 6 months, imports have substantially increased as far as Patra is concerned. So you are getting a lot of ships. I think more than 1 lakh tons of Patra has got imported in the last financial year, and this quantity is only go up from here, because pipe, seeing the huge difference between your price of HR coil and MS strips, I think it is extremely difficult to produce any pipes out of HR coils now. So as regards this power situation, which Pradeep also discussed, there's a difficulty. Nobody likes uncertainty in business. Nobody likes the risk. So when retrospective effects on price increase comes and some claims are there, so it's a matter of deep concern, and the industry is taking it up strongly with the government. As far as availability of power is concerned, today with the Upper Tamakoshi project getting in full stream of production, August 25th, 2021 was a momentous day for Nepal, because that day we imported 23 megawatt from India and exported 56 megawatt to India. So now with this project coming up on stream, Nepal has become a surplus state, and this wet season which we have, clearly a surplus state will be Nepal. And with new projects coming on stream, I don't think we'll again be facing a deficit scenario. So when you have a power situation where it will be surplus, obviously new players will come into the market. How to utilize its extra power which is available in the country. For keeping that in mind, a lot of new players are setting up their furnaces, as Pradeep said. 7 new players will be coming in. Total 11 players will have furnaces in Nepal. From what I see, as far as the order book goes for furnaces is there. So with these furnaces coming on stream, the demand for sponge iron is definitely going to increase in a big way. Like sponge iron, we had demand of 1.72 in 1819. It went down, rather it never went down actually. It was 1.35, then it went up to 4 million tons. And for 1.4 lakh tons, I'm sorry, and 2021, it was 1.92 lakh tons. Now this 1.92 lakh tons is poised to grow substantially for this coming year. I see that the demand this year should not be less than 5 to 6 lakh tons. And next year, it will be more than 1 million tons of sponge iron coming into Nepal. And if you look at capacities, of course, I mean, when you set up capacities, you need to have a matching demand in the market. Assuming that Nepal, and we all hope that Nepal is able to show the same projection in growth, 10 to 10, 11%, if that happens, then this capacity will further increase. So I see in the next 2 to 3 years, your requirement for billets may go down with demand for sponge iron increasing and taking up that demand. So that will definitely happen. As regards infrastructure projects coming up in Nepal, of course, there are a lot of projects. There are some 2022 projects of national importance. It's a pride of Nepal projects. A lot of corridors, huge airport planned at Nijgarh. Then there's a Koshi corridor, Gandaki corridor. A lot of corridors are coming. You have to connect Nepal. It's a hilly, most of the terrain is hilly. So you need to connect the country. And so far we've had arterial roads only. So this entire network of road has been planned, and if it works out properly, so demand should definitely go up from here. As far as hydropower is concerned, it is a topic which has been much talked about. Huge hydropower potential exists in Nepal. Is the second largest hydropower potential, so to say. But when we talk of figures, we are still, if we talk of 80,000 megawatt potential for Nepal, because of the fall factor, we do in a small country, we can go up to 80,000 megawatt. But projects, due to various reasons, whether it is land acquisition or availability of funds or local issues, the projects have not been able to move the way they would have moved. There are a lot of Indian projects which are still held up. Now, the largest project which I see, which is going on right now, is Arun 3. It's a 900 megawatt project. There are two projects which are supposed to be taken up by GMR, Karnali 1, Karnali 2, another 500 and 900 megawatt, if I remember correctly. We've been planning it for the last 10 years, 12 years, but they are not moved off the ground. Once these projects start moving, then really Nepal, not only steel demand will go up, country will develop in a big way. So this is all. Of course, as Sir said, that interest rates have been a very positive factor, sort of gave us a soothing touch to our finances. But this situation now coming to 7 to 8%, what I understand from the banking industry now, there's a trend that interest rates will again start rising. So I don't know how long we can rejoice with low interest rates. So this is, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was really all the things put up in a nutshell with all price trends and market shifts and dynamics that are taking place. Just a couple of questions that we wanted you to share your thoughts on. What is your outlook on domestic rebar prices in Nepal, say for next 1 to 2 months?
Madam, if you look at current prices in Nepal, we are selling at around 85, 86 rupees in the market. This is our material sales on credit. Now there's a slight shift on trade terms. But there is really no demand in the market. As I said, too much supply chasing too little demand in the market. Huge capacities have come up. Demand really is not there. We thought after this lockdown opened up in the month of Ashad, which was last month, July, we thought demand will pick up. But surprisingly, the demand has really not picked up. We've not been able to sell the quantities we thought we'll be able to sell in Ashad. Same goes for this month. Probably one of the factors has been this continuous rainfall, which is, I think it has been raining almost every day. Last 2-3 days, we are seeing some clear skies. But because of this, landslides at various locations, transportation issues and all, probably things got further disturbed. But if the markets are to improve and the demand has to come up, I think it is the the time is now. In another 7-10 days, I think probably the market should open up, demand should increase. But then I don't see prices going up in any way. The price points, Nepal prices are always a reflection of what happens in India. So today with steel mint, everybody, even customers, will like to see how market opens up in India and what price point, whether market is going up 500 rupees and or going down by 500 rupees. They try and base their decisions on that. So everybody has information on their mobiles, that access to information is much better now. But when the prices are going up, because of this demand supply mismatch, we are not able to increase prices, get the realizations in line with our raw material costs. And when the markets go down, we saw extreme reactions. Everybody wants to appear to sell first and get some hold of sales. It puts the pressure on prices. Of course, we don't subscribe to this idea. We have a large network of customers, distributors who are pretty loyal and who sell our products. So we maintain a stable market and ensure that our customers do make money. And then product and consumer gets a product which offers value for money.
Understand.
Prices are extremely volatile depending upon how India moves. Nepal will move accordingly, but not with the same, it's not a direct correlation.
Got it, sir. Just a follow-up question. If you could just quantify the rising melting capacities that you mentioned, and as well as for the long steel as well. Like what are the capacity ramp-ups that have taken place this year, and any expansions in pipeline for the next year or so?
Madam, 2 mills have already started their furnace operations recently. So now markets in Nepal have got completely localized. You've got various geographical areas where we'll have players. Viratnagar, I see around 4 players setting up furnaces. Dharwa, we already had 2. Another one has already placed order. Birganj, we already have 4 with 1 addition. Another order going across to 5 players. So the market has got, it's become a big market. I understand even far west, Nepalganj also, furnaces have 2-3 panels have been ordered. So seeing the kind of capacity, the orders of furnaces which are there, I think, as I said earlier, this demand for sponge will rise and it will go up sooner than later. And from an import of 1.2 lakh tons, which we did last year, this year we should end up somewhere like 5 to 6 lakh tons minimum. And next year, I think it will be more than 1 million tons, definitely.
Right, sir. And the shift that you mentioned from HRC to Patra, so any outlook that you would like to share on that?
Madam, as long as the price differential between HR coil and Patra remains substantially higher, which you are aware, I think the market for pipe will keep drifting towards use of Patra, and this requirement will only go up. I understand even in India, seeing this huge mismatch in prices, some 15, 18 new mills have been ordered for making Patra. So I hope we can keep getting a continuous stream of Patra in Nepal market.
Thank you so much, sir, for the information and answering the questions. Really informative. Madhumita ma'am, over to you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sharma. And now let me introduce Mrs. Sanjay Agarwal, the Joint Managing Director of the Shyam Group in India. Mr. Agarwal has spearheaded the growth and stability of the Shyam Group for more than 20 years. He is actively involved in and responsible for operations that include pellets and iron ore, sponge iron, and ferroalloys. The Shyam Group is India's largest sponge iron and ferroalloys producer, with a major focus on specialized alloys. Other than operations, Mr. Agarwal is the guiding force behind the group's marketing operations, with specialization in market penetration and in establishing products in new areas. Shyam Cell and Shyam Metallics, along with Shyam Ferro, have a consolidated turnover of rupees 5,000 crore. Mr. Sanjay Agarwal will give us the Indian perspective. Sir, the mic is all yours now.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Madhumita. And thank you, Pradeep ji and Anurag ji. Good afternoon to you, and giving a wonderful insight for Nepal. And when you were talking of Nepal, I could see the past days of India. Then we were also dealing with same kind of problems, and now how we came up with, and now the scenario in Indian steel industry is quite contrary what you had just said to Nepal. Last year, when in 2020 March, I believe, when the pandemic had started, there was a lot of uncertainty. Uh, we ourselves was very much confused. We didn't know what will happen. Everything was closed down. The government took the decision, and nothing was working, including the industry, and it was a complete havoc. And I don't know. We were actually lost. But surprisingly, with the Chinese coming in, and after post-COVID, they're giving the stimulus in their economy. They started producing at the highest capacity, and not only that, they started consuming their steel themselves. This has gave the space for the Indian steel producers in the world market to export their steel. So when I remember after May, in June, there was a huge demand for pellets in China, and the HR coil was being exported all over the world. So, this has really give us the push, and the fear factor which was there in April and May was come over with a joy, and we actually rode a very good ride throughout the year, and it had proven to be a wonderful year. Now with the second wave coming in April and May, this time what has happened is, though the government has put the restrictions, there was a lot of projects got held up, and even in the rural sector. However, the industries continue to produce. And what has happened is, after the second wave in April and May, in June, when the market got opened up, the industry were piled up with a lot of stocks. So though we had liquidity, we didn't find the prices to become, could not raise the prices. So the demand started coming up from June in spite of the monsoon appearing. And in July, August, now having passed those August, now when the stockpiles have been decreased and the demand is constantly rising in the domestic market, because the infrastructure push from the government has been good, the rural sector has opened up after the lockdown. And the COVID has been passed, as far as I think, in India, and the government has taken a lot of initiative for vaccinations and all. So maybe the third wave, what we are talking about, will not be as impactful as we had seen the second wave. So iron ore, now Chinese have started decreasing their production of steel, and the iron ore prices also is coming in control. On the contrary, the coal prices is rising now for various factors. In spite of that, we could still get the margins in the integration, because the demand for steel in India is still very good. We can see the long products liquidity is very, very good, and Chinese still out of the international market is giving us the room to export the steel as well. So we are quite optimistic, in fact, for the as far as the Indian steel scenario is concerned, despite the challenges we see. Apart from this, I believe the coal is the major challenge what I see in the forthcoming days, because the South African coal, which was predominant for the sponge iron producers, have started going in China, and the price is out of reach for the Indian sponge iron producers. But that has been compensated with the drop in iron ore prices, and that has been replaced with the domestic coal. What it has done is, it has reduced the DRI production, because the South African coal being superior, the production we could have taken 25-30% higher than the installed capacity of the kiln. When we started replacing it with the Indian coal, the sponge iron production has decreased by 25-30%, and this has created some kind of a gap between a demand and supply of sponge iron. So in spite of this, with the rising demand of finished steel, the integrated producers continue will be making money. That's what I think in India. As far as Shyam Metallic is concerned, Madhupita ma'am, Shyam Metallic consolidated turnover was 6,300 last year, and it's not 5,000.
Okay, I stand corrected.
As far as Nepal is concerned, we see Nepal as a very, very strong ally for us. It's a very important market for us. And in Shyam Metallic, we feel the development is bound to happen where there is no development. It's a matter of time only. So we had always seen Nepal as a very good partner, and logistically also, as well as, you know, that from the development side also, we see Nepal as a huge market for us in coming days. And Mr. Anurag has rightly said, because of overcapacity in TMT, people will tend to reduce their cost and they will go for the backward integration, and demand for sponge iron will bound to rise because they will be producing billets out of induction. And sponge iron, of course, I cannot comment. I really am not aware of the geographical scenario and the mineralogy of Nepal. But yes, I can see a lot of inductions coming up, as Mr. Anurag has said. And that with the projects coming up, hydro projects, and demand for those TMT is bound to recover. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Agarwal. I just have a few questions for you. Overcapacity, oversupply in Nepal, any challenge for exports ahead in that case?
Sorry?
Overcapacity, oversupply in Nepal. So any challenge for exporters going ahead?
In Nepal?
Yes.
Yeah, obviously, because, you know, if you talk about, say, imports, like the container freights are going skyrockets, it's above the roof. So anything you are importing or exporting, the logistically is eating away the major pie. And when you are not able to make money in your steel making, obviously you cannot sell the material very far from your production plant. And Nepal being a landlocked country, I don't see export happening from Nepal.
No, what I meant is from the Indian exporters' perspective, any challenges?
For exports?
No, what I meant is any challenges for exporters from India to Nepal?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, in fact, I see an opportunity there because we are the only one which is very close to Nepal. And Nepal, because of the container freights and the logistics costs going so high, so India becomes the natural ally for the Nepal to import steel from. So in fact, this is the right time for us to approach Nepal. The only thing which is negative from this side is because of the COVID, they had recovered very slowly as compared to India. And this recovery only might hit the demand. Otherwise, it's a wonderful opportunity for us.
Right. Shyam Group is a major producer of long steel products. So what are your future plans on capacity expansion, and what volumes are you planning to divert to towards exports?
Right now, we are producing around 0.8 million ton of long products. Within the next 12 months, we will be reaching around 1.5 million tons. And for exports, around 10 to 15% of that will be exported. How
about the steel demand supply scenario in India's domestic market, especially in relation to EAF and IF players? I mean, does the future look optimistic?
That's very interesting. Now for the induction furnace, I believe it's a time for the integrated producer. Because, as I said, because of the usage of domestic coal, the DRI production has reduced by 25 to 30%. This has created a gap in the domestic market. Okay. So the sponge iron prices will obviously be high for the induction furnace, and they will not be able to make margin in producing billets. So you really have to do an integration for making some money when you sell your finish. So standalone induction furnace with rolling mill might not make the money because the amount of losses they will be making in making billets will end up will end up compensating in TMT, or they might not recover those losses from selling long products. So it's a time for the integrated plant only to make money, because sponge iron will always be carrying a premium for induction furnace. And for the electric arc furnace, again, the sponge iron and the scrap. Scrap, we are importing around a 5 million ton of scrap every year, and now the scrap prices are so high, and it's again because of the container issues and all. So electric arc furnace is bound to suffer unless they have their liquid metal from the blast furnace. So what I see that the integrated steel producers will enjoy this benefits by selling finished products in the coming months, and the standalone SMS and rolling mill will suffer. But yes, I can see demand will be, liquidity will be there in the market.
And what kind of an impact is the rising coal prices having on cost of production?
Yeah, this is very interesting. The China had entered into the South African coal since last year, and earlier
Right.
India used to import 70% of South African exports for their sponge iron production. And now this whole quantity is out of India and has been diverted to China because of their political reasons, not buying thermal coal from Australia. This has raised the shortage of coal for sponge iron in the industry, and the coal prices in India also has went very high. Now, what we have started doing is we have replacing the imported South African coal with the Indian coal. And again, as I said, that even though the coal cost is high, that will be compensated by the decrease in the iron ore prices. And since there will be a gap of sponge iron in demand and supply because of the reduction of sponge iron production owing to usage of domestic coal, so margins will always be there. And even though the coal cost will be high, the share of carbon cost in steel making will be high. Industry will going to have its margin. That will not be any impact.
Thank you so much, Mr. Agarwal. Now we have a few questions from our viewers. There's a question from Mr. Rajesh Agarwal from Mr. Anurak. Regarding excess steel capacity in Nepal, is consolidation expected or exports is a solution?
Yeah.
There's a question for you
it's a
from...
good question. Well, I've understood that question. It's a good question. When an industry is under stress, for a short period, it is okay. For a long period, if an industry is in stress, it has to move towards a consolidation phase. So industry definitely will consolidate. And as far as exports is concerned, our natural geography, the logistics, the kind of inventory handling costs that we incur, the labor cost that we have, the local issues, exports from Nepal is not a viable option as far as TMT bars is concerned. So that is a clear-cut, it's a possibility which is ruled out. No exports of TMT bars is going to take place. Consolidation, I think, would be a way forward. The industry remains stressed. The pie, the cake does not increase, the size does not increase. Here, the role of the government to get the industry out of this situation becomes important, because government has to be a big spender in the market. Of course, your capital budget, which was allocated, I think we have shown a 20% increase as compared to the previous year. So that reflects in the steel also coming back to pre-COVID levels. This capital outlay from the government has to go up substantially. They have to be a big spender in Nepal, because each rupee that the government spends, it gets manifested 3-4 times. It's a cascading effect which takes place in generation of growth in the market. So government's role will be very important in the coming times. But yes, if the market remains the way it is, clear demand supply mismatch, the market doesn't grow, not many projects declared but not coming off the ground, then consolidation will be there.
Viewers, and we look forward to having you all on board for our next event. This is your host, Madhumita Mukherjee, editor, Steel Mint, signing out. Thank you once again, everyone. Thank you.